Anchoring Effect. Imagine you're shopping for a used bike, and the first one you see is priced at $300. As you look at other bikes, you keep thinking about that $300 price. Even if you see cheaper bikes, you might still think $300 is a normal price. This happens because the first price you saw, $300, set an anchor in your mind, and you compare all other prices to it. This is called the anchoring effect, when the first piece of information you get sticks in your mind and influences your decisions after that. Availability heuristic. Think about when you watch a lot of news about shark attacks. It might make you feel like shark attacks are very common. But in reality, they are extremely rare. The availability heuristic is when things you see or hear often, like in the news, make you think they happen a lot more than they actually do. Your brain takes a shortcut and uses the most immediate examples to make decisions, instead of looking at all the facts. Click subscribe to this channel to get more topics you love. Bystander Effect. Imagine you're in a park and see someone who looks like they need help. If there are a lot of other people around, you might think, someone else will probably help them. If you were the only one there, you'd feel more responsible to help. The bystander effect is when people are less likely to help someone in trouble if there are other people around. Everyone thinks someone else will do something, so no one ends up helping. Confirmation bias. Let's say you really like skateboarding and believe it's the best sport. You might pay more attention to positive things about skateboarding and ignore the negatives. Or, if someone says something bad about skateboarding, you might not believe them. This is called confirmation bias. It's when you favor information that agrees with what you already believe and ignore information that disagrees. It's like having filters on your ears that only let in what you want to hear. Dunning-Kruger Effect. Have you ever started a new hobby and thought you were really good at it, only to realize there was so much you didn't know? The Dunning-Kruger effect is when people who are new to something often feel more confident than they should be because they don't see all the details and challenges yet. As they learn more, they realize it's harder than they thought, and their confidence might drop until they become experts. Fundamental attribution error. Imagine you see someone tripping on the street. You might think, that person is so clumsy, instead of thinking they might have tripped because the sidewalk was uneven. The fundamental attribution error is when you think other people's actions are because of their personality or character, not because of the situation they are in. But when you trip, you blame the sidewalk, not your own clumsiness. Halo Effect. Suppose a new student in your class is really good at drawing. If you think they're also smart, kind, and funny just because they can draw well, that's the halo effect. It's when you see one good thing about someone and assume they're good at other things too. Just like a halo in pictures makes someone look like an angel, one good quality can make everything about a person seem better. Hawthorne Effect. If you know your teacher is watching you while you do an assignment, you might work harder just because you're being watched. This is called the Hawthorne Effect. It happens when people change their behavior because they know someone is observing them. It's like how you might clean up your room faster if you know your mom is checking on you. In-group bias. Imagine you're in a school club, like the chess club. You might think your club members are cooler or smarter than those in other clubs just because they're in your group. This feeling is called in-group bias. It's when people favor their own group, the in-group, over people who are not in their group, the out-group. You feel a special connection with your group, and sometimes without even realizing it, you might treat others differently who aren't part of it. Mere exposure effect. Have you ever heard a song you didn't like at first, but after hearing it many times, you started to like it? That's the mere exposure effect. It means the more you see or hear something, the more you tend to like it. It's like getting used to a new food. At first, it might seem strange, but as you eat it more, you might start to enjoy it. Think about when you get 10 compliments and 1 insult. You might end up thinking about the insult more than all the compliments. This is called negativity bias. It's when bad things have a bigger impact on your thoughts and feelings than good things. Even if good things happen more often, the bad things seem to stick in your mind longer and stronger. Placebo Effect. Imagine you have a headache, and someone gives you a pill they say will help. You take it, and your headache goes away. Later, you find out the pill was just sugar, not real medicine. But because you believed it would work, it helped your headache. This is the placebo effect. It shows how powerful your brain is. Just believing that you're getting treatment can make you feel better, even if the treatment isn't real. Primacy Effect. When you meet someone new, you often remember things they said or did at the beginning more than later on. This is called the primacy effect. It's when the first information you learn about something, like meeting a new person, sticks in your mind more strongly than information that comes after. It's like the first impression sets a picture of them in your mind that is hard to change. Recency Effect. Now think about a list of groceries you need to remember. You might remember the last few items better than those in the middle. This is the recency effect. It's the opposite of the primacy effect. Here, the most recent things you hear or see are easiest to remember. So, the end of the list stays fresher in your mind. Self-serving bias. When you win a game, you might think, I won because I'm really good at this. But if you lose, you might think, I only lost because the other player got lucky. This is self-serving bias. It's when you give yourself credit for the good things and blame outside factors for the bad things. It helps keep your confidence up, but it can also make it hard to learn from mistakes. Social proof. Imagine you're at a school talent show and nobody is clapping for the first few acts. Then, one person starts clapping enthusiastically after an act, and suddenly everyone else starts clapping too. This is an example of social proof. It's when people copy what others are doing because they think it's the right thing to do. If lots of people are doing something, it seems safe or correct, so you might feel a push to do it too, even if you weren't sure about it at first. Stereotyping. Let's say you hear that all skateboarders are very brave. So, when you meet someone who skateboards, you automatically think they must be brave, even without knowing them well. This is called stereotyping. It's when you believe certain things about people just because they belong to a particular group. While it can make thinking about the world simpler, it's not very accurate and can lead to unfair judgments. Sunk cost fallacy. Imagine you've spent all afternoon working on a big puzzle, but you're not having fun. You want to stop, but you think, I've already spent so much time on this, I can't quit now. This feeling is known as the sunk cost fallacy. It's when you keep doing something just because you've already put a lot of time or money into it, not because you're really enjoying it or it's the best choice to make. Zeigarnik Effect. Have you ever started doing your homework, got interrupted, and then kept thinking about it until you finished it? That's the Zeigarnik Effect. It's when people remember uncompleted or interrupted tasks better than tasks they have completed. It's like your brain keeps poking you, saying, hey, don't forget to finish this. Baader-Meinhof Phenomenon. This happens when you learn about something new, like a word or a type of car, and then you suddenly start seeing it everywhere. It's called the Baader-Meinhof Phenomenon or frequency illusion. It's not that these things are appearing more often, it's just that you've become more aware of them, so you notice them more. Cognitive dissonance. Imagine you believe that eating candy is bad for you, but you really love eating candy. This situation, where your beliefs don't match your actions, can make you feel uncomfortable or stressed. This feeling is known as cognitive dissonance. It happens when there's a clash between what you believe and what you do, and it pushes you to change either your actions or your beliefs to reduce the discomfort. Overjustification Effect. Suppose you love drawing just for fun, but then you start getting paid to draw for people. If suddenly you find you're not enjoying drawing as much anymore, you could be experiencing the overjustification effect. It happens when a reward, like money, for doing something you already like doing makes the activity feel less like fun and more like work. Illusory correlation. This is when you mistakenly think two things are connected when they're not. For example, if you wear your lucky socks when you do well on a test, you might think the socks helped you succeed. This is called an illusory correlation. You've made a false connection between your performance and the socks, even though there's no real link. Actor-observer bias. Imagine you slip and fall in a puddle and think, that puddle was so slippery, anyone could have fallen. But if you see someone else slip and fall, you might think, they're not very careful. This is called the actor-observer bias. It happens because when you do something, you focus on factors outside of yourself, like the environment. But when you see someone else doing something, you tend to think it's because of their personality or choices. Forer Effect, Barnum Effect. Have you ever read a horoscope or a personality description that seemed exactly like you? Then later, you discover it could apply to lots of people, not just you. This happens because of the Forer Effect, also known as the Barnum Effect. It's when statements are so general that they could be true for many people, but everyone thinks they are specifically true for them. It shows how we like to find personal meanings in vague information.